Hello and welcome to the second webinar on ECHA's new public data availability system. My name is Roberta Di Blasi and I work in a team responsible for ECHA's dissemination activities. Today, me and my colleague Gerson have the pleasure of giving you an update of the new data availability system we are building, and which will gradually replace our current chemicals database. We will start with a quick recap of the project and the timelines. As promised during the first webinar, today you will hear more in detail about the current status of development of the first version of the system, which will publish rich registrations. Through a live demonstration, I will showcase the features of its initial release. After that, Gerson will tell you about our plans to expand the system to also make available information on regulatory obligations and processes. To finish the webinar, he will talk you through ECHA's transition plan. In other words, how we foresee to gradually move from our current chemical database to the new system, and what kind of support you can expect. During this event, you can ask questions at slido.com using the event code DAS2023 visible on the screen. Slido will open throughout the webinar until 12 o'clock Helsinki time. Our experts are online to answer your questions. Please ask questions only on the topic of the webinar. In case you have questions or issues with the current chemicals database, send those via our contact form, as we will not be able to cover them during this session. This event is recorded, and shortly after the event, we will share the material with you on the webinar page. The presentations and video recording are already available as soon as the event ends. We will also compile a questions and answers document from the questions received through Slido. We will announce in our weekly newsletter when it is available. You can subscribe to the newsletter on our website at echa.europa.eu/subscribe. Now I'm going to present a recap with updated timeline. In the coming years, we foresee that the amount and variety of data to be made publicly available will keep increasing. To be prepared for this, we want to build a system that is modular, expandable, and scalable, in order to faster integrate new datasets. At the same time, we shift to robust modern technology to provide improved performance and stability. And while we are at it, we also want to take the opportunity to focus on enhanced user experience, which means access methods and formats that facilitate the user and improve the clarity of information we present. Let's have a look at the overall plan and timeline for the new system. We are developing the system with an incremental approach. This means that we will develop and transfer the data into the new system step by step. We have started last year with a preparatory phase that, among other things, included stakeholder interactions to gather the needs and to collect feedback on what is working well and what not so well. In the first version of ECHA's new data availability system, we will focus on making available the data from rich registrations. This is foreseen to happen at the end of January 2024. A second milestone will be the release of the revised classification and labeling inventory in autumn 2024. Finally, toward the end of 2024, the first set of regulatory lists will be available in the new system. Our work will continue beyond 2024. New datasets covering food regulations and processes will be added to the system. Based on the feedback from the first versions, we will further develop and fine-tune the system features to enhance user experience. To summarize the first part of the presentation, the development of the first version of the new data availability system is progressing well. After this slide, I will guide you through a live demonstration. The go-live of the new system with rich registration data is foreseen for the end of January 2024. We will continue the incremental development of the system over the coming years by adding new datasets and enhancing the system features. Finally, the feedback collected during the previous stakeholder engagement activities has proven very useful. We will continue engaging our users also after the go-live to collect additional feedback. Today, I will show you the new look and feel of the new data availability system. We will start from a simple substance search, and through the substance dashboard, we will reach the Rich Registrations dossier page. In the first version of the new system, the users can perform a simple search from the landing page. The keyword can be any substance identifier that is currently available in ECHA's database. For example, substance name, EC number, CAS number, or UPAC name. I will now show you an example of substance search. When the search is performed with a numerical identifier, such as the EC number, the system will return the exact match. The same applies when the exact substance names are found. When the user truncates the word or the numerical identifier, the system will return all substances whose name or number contains the string inserted. The search results can be exported in Excel format by clicking on the Export button. Now, let's choose a substance to visualize. After clicking on the desired substance name, we access the Substance Dashboard page. The Substance Dashboard, similar to the current Substance Info card, gives an overview on the datasets currently available for the substance. The upper header is always visible on the page. This will help users remember which substance page they are visiting. The first block of information contains the main identifiers and the substance structural formula when applicable. The second block gives an overview of the Euclid dossiers received for the substance, containing information on properties and uses of substance that companies have submitted to ECHA. As previously mentioned, in the first release, we will publish rich registration data, and consequently, in the first release, this block summarizes how many rich registrations were received for a substance. The users can navigate to the full content of each block either via the left menu or by clicking on the block widget. Identity page. When accessing the content of the identity page, you can see all identifiers available in our database for the substance you have chosen to view. The structural image is also displayed when available. Dossier page. Next, we have the dossier page. Under this page, you can find non-confidential versions of dossier received under different chemical legislations, providing information on substance properties. As mentioned above, the first version of the new data availability system will cover rich registrations, but gradually dossiers under other regulations will be added and displayed under the relevant heading, for example, biocides or drinking water directive. You can directly select the subpage containing rich registrations dossier from the substance of interest. The page is called Dossier List page. As you may remember from the first webinar we hosted on this topic, unlike the current dissemination platform, the new data availability system will make available the non-confidential version of each dossier separately, without merging them. This helps distinguish, for example, between active and non-active dossiers, and dossiers submitted in different contexts. I will soon show you some examples of this. When it comes to the dossier content, the same information is made available as before. No changes have been made. As you can see, there are available three different tabs. The Dossier tab, showing the latest dossier submitted for each registration, the Registration Number tab, and the Registrant's Name tab. Same as in the current dissemination platform, the dossiers in the list are not connected with the registration numbers and registrant names. The Dossier tab is further split into active and not active. In our most recent round of stakeholder interviews, we asked you which attributes would help you choosing the dossier of interest. Based on your input, we have selected the dossier subtype, which indicates whether the dossier was submitted for a full registration as per Article 10 of REACH, or intermediate registration of the transported isolated intermediate, or on-site isolated intermediate as per Article 17 and 18 of REACH. The registrant role indicates whether the dossier was submitted by the lead of a joint submission, the member of a joint submission, or an individual submission. Whether the registration corresponds to a notification under the previous directive or nonce, the registration date, the last updated date, and the link to the dossier. The table with the not active dossiers contains different information. First of all, we can now find several statuses, such as null, inactive, and no longer valid. We'll also highlight on which date the status changed. In the last column, we display the reason for the status. For example, the status inactive due to cease manufacturer import. The title of each column contains a short explanation displayed when you hover on the mouse. Naturally, you can sort the column in ascending or descending order, based on your preferences. The Registration Number tab contains the list of all registration numbers that were issued for the substance, along with their statuses. The registrants table contains the list of all companies that have sent registration dossier for the substance. The company details are displayed along with the status and with the reason for the status, if applicable. Now let's take a look at the dossier, which are the core of our first release and contain the data submitted by companies. The new dossier view follows the look and feel of Euclid. On the top left corner, just above the table of content, you will find a summary of administrative data for the Euclid dossier chosen. The attributes shown are the status of the registration, the registration date, the icon showing the role, if lead of a joint submission, member of a joint submission, or individual. In the new format, the section follows the same structure of Euclid. They are shown in the same order and section name. Categories and template are displayed at the bottom of the table of content where applicable. For each section, you will have an indication of the total records available in it. When clicking on a section, its content is expanded. The records within each section are renamed in a standardized way. This allows consistencies among all dossiers received. Considering too that sometimes record names can contain confidential text, this renaming is a precaution against publishing such sensitive information. Looking at the content of the dossier, users can navigate easily through the subsections from the upper tab menu. This prevents having to scroll down until the subsection of interest. To increase transparency, we will also display whether the file was empty or in case the content was removed due to confidentiality, as shown here. Users can decide to hide this type of fields by clicking on the radio button on the top right corner. Thank you for your attention. I will now give the floor to Gerson, who will tell you about the plans to make data available on regulatory obligations and processes.
Hi, my name is Gerson Martin from the European Chemicals Agency, and together with Roberta, we're working on the ECHA Data's new availability system. I will be presenting the topic of making available data on regulatory obligations and processes, the transition plan from our current chemicals database to the new data availability system, and the conclusions from today's webinar. Let's start with clarifying what we mean by regulatory obligation and process data. Regulatory obligations lists are lists with a legal status, such as the REACH registration list. Regulatory processes provide insight on which substances are, have been, or might be subject to regulatory activities, example, opinion or decisions making by ECHA, and at which stage of the process they are. they are currently published under the heading Packed. As mentioned already, we are following an incremental approach, and obligations lists and processes will be added to our new system in different periods of time. Next, I want to show you some first sketches of how we foresee to publish information for regulatory obligations and lists. We have developed this based on the feedback collected from you. Before going into details, I want to emphasize that the shown examples are only illustrative and not based on true data. The idea is to visualize the concepts. In other words, the final system might not look exactly like this and may not initially contain all the shown items. Now, Roberta already showed to you the landing page search in the live demo. So I will focus on the quick links menus at the bottom of the landing page, which will be added when the regulatory part of the system is released. On the left, we have the links to regulatory obligations list, and on the right to the regulatory processes. These quick links will allow you to have direct access to the most prominent lists and processes from the landing page. You can also expand the quick links menu to see the full collection of regulatory lists and processes data available in the new system. Now, imagine that you select on the landing page to view all regulatory obligations. Here, you will be presented with the collections of all available lists. Through the list titles, you can navigate to see the full content of that specific list. In the first version of the data availability system, we will make available standard sorting and filtering features to assist you in finding the information you need. In this case, let's say that you decided to explore the restriction list. In other words, the substance restricted under REACH. Here, you will be presented with the following information. On the top, a description of the list and its regulatory context. A possibility to look for a substance on that list by substance identifiers. And of course, the table showing all entries of the list. The information in the columns will show the key elements for the list entries, and in the last column there will be a link to further details. From the link to further details, you can access a page like this, which shows you the details available on a specific regulatory list entry. First, you will get an overview of the generic information about the entry, including any documentation, and I mean attached documents, Q&A, appendixes, etc. that might be relevant to this entry. On the details page, you can also see a timeline, if applicable, when the changes have been adopted for that specific entry. So far, we have been talking about regulatory obligations list. The same approach applies to regulatory processes. Similarly to the regulatory obligations list, you can access the list of regulatory processes directly from the quick links on the landing page, and the view to the list of all processes covered by the system. As for regulatory obligations, from here you can go further to view all substances that are currently going through, or have previously gone through, a certain regulatory process. This concept is similar to the one presented for the regulatory obligations list. When you get to the details page of a substance in a process, you will first see a short description of the regulatory process, followed by a summary of the case and the current status of the process. To note again that this picture is drawn up only to illustrate the concept. The information is not based on true data. On the bottom of the regulatory process details page, you can see a timeline showing the sequence of events. The timeline will help you to see how far along the process the substance is. Past events and upcoming events are displayed differently, and the most recent step is highlighted. Here, gray color means past events, blue, latest events, and dashed line, future steps. This concludes the webinar section covering the regulatory process and obligations data. I hope you find it useful to get a glimpse of where we are in the design of this part, which we will cover more in depth in upcoming webinars. Before we close the webinar, I will say a few words about the transition period and summarize the key messages. Our aim is to deliver to you the new data availability system as soon as possible. To this end, we will follow an incremental approach, which means that we will transfer data from our current dissemination platform in a stepwise manner. You will have continuous access to information. The information that hasn't been transferred to the new data availability system will be available on ECHA's website and kept up to date. We'll continue engaging with you. Future stakeholder engagement events will also take place after the go live. Support material will be prepared to guide you in this journey. Examples: a new dedicated page on ECHA's website will be developed to inform you about the progress on this project. This site will contain new guidance and videos that will help you to find the data that you're interested in during the transition period. This page will be available in January 2024. The webinar series will continue. Stay tuned for more information. The new data availability system will go live at the end of January 2024 with rich registration data. As of the end of January 2024, we will have two parallel systems. Due to the gradual transition and depending on your needs, you might need to check both websites, ECHA's website and the new data availability system website, for information. To facilitate your experience and access to data, we will provide redirection from current platforms to the new system through links. This means that rich dossier information will be in the new system, but CNL inventory and regulatory lists and processes remain in the old platform. After Autumn 24, rich dossier and CLN inventory will be in the new system, but regulatory lists is still in the old one. After the end of 2024, some information will still remain in the old platform. For example, biocides, pick lists, skip, etc. And the transition will continue. As mentioned by my colleague at the beginning of the webinar, please join our live Q&A. If you have not done it yet at theslido.com, the event code is DAS2023. Webinar opens until 12 Helsinki time to answer questions. If your question is not answered by the end of the webinar, send it via our contact form echa.europa.eu/contact. This event is recorded, and shortly after the event, we will share the material with you on the webinar page. The presentation is already available to you, so you can go directly and check it. We will also compile a Q&A documents from the questions received through Slido and announce it on a weekly newsletter when available. You can subscribe to it at echa.europa.eu/subscribe. I would like to thank you for your interest that you have shown in this project, and your input has been very valuable to us. Thank you very much.